Licity Collins is a folk and rock artist in Ojai, California, but she's lived all over the U.S. and collected stories that she channels in lyrics and even in spoken word. Her new album is called Love, Courage, Yes, and it's out today. Welcome to Here and Now, Licity.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
You grew up performing music, playing the cello in a youth orchestra in Washington, D.C.
Actually, I really hated going to youth orchestra. I mean, there was a part of me that was really shy, and I didn't really know how to relate to other kids on some level, but I loved being in the fantasy of music, and the cello was a great instrument for me because it was such a full-body experience, and it's such an emotional instrument, and it did give me a place to express things I wasn't able to, and it still does. You know, a lot of my songs originate from things I'm just not able to say directly to people for whatever reason.
It reminds me, there's a strong cello element and string element in Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, and that's apparently one of the songs that motivates you.
Yeah, there's like no rock instruments in that. That's a string octet in that song. And I sometimes describe my music as like Eleanor Rigby meets Refugee by Tom Petty, like catering to that isolated loneliness that we all feel and that isolation that I felt growing up. And then this freedom that rock and roll gives us to say like, man, but things could be really different. You know, rock and roll is like that jolt of energy to your spine that says, man, I can get through this. I can do it and it can get better.
What song on this album do you think exemplifies that feeling the most?
I really think that Weather Gets Warm is where that folk meets the rock and just takes off.
So you wrapped me in that blanket your mother had crocheted. We fell together on the couch, kissing like kids, finding ourselves in an unauthorized embrace. Will there be an end to the storm? Hang on to the weather that's warm, holding on to a begging sun.
In folk, you get to tell these long-winded kind of stories. And then it just drops it all and says, let's rock out for a while. And when the bridge, we get to a point where we say, let's dream. So even the song is about suffering. And there's this hope that comes when the rock and roll comes in that gives you that sense of abandon that humans so desperately need to live our lives.
You know, I noticed that happens a lot on many of your songs, that it starts off one way and then maybe picks up a lot like halfway through. And so, whoa, like a whole different song. And you say that's to accomplish something.
It's to give you that range of emotion. I mean, life is full of so many different feelings all at once. And I guess because I grew up in that cello section, like I just hear everything like an orchestra. And I like that sense of cognitive dissonance.
Like that? Most people don't like it at all.
But you know why they don't like it? Because it makes them have to grow. Let's be honest, it's uncomfortable. That's why we have growing pains. We describe it as painful. But when your brain says, man, those two things don't belong together, like new mental pathways have to form so that you can process it. So my music does that as well.
On your new album out today, you include songs and prose as well, your own writing. Why the two?
Oh, to me, it's all singing, and some things need a different type of singing and a different type of rhythm and cadence and ups and downs. And sometimes a solo acoustic is what's needed, and sometimes a full rock song is needed. And it gives people more ways to connect.
There's one piece that you've done, and I wonder if you can recite a bit of it for us about going to attend your mom's funeral. Do you mind reading a little bit of that?
Sure, I sure will. I ended up in this very well-priced hotel room in this basement room. And so this tells you a little bit about it. I feel like a mole in this corridor outside the window, which I guess is not really corridor, but a garbage dumping area, is an overflowing green garbage bin. It's pressed up against the window, its lid unable to shut completely due to a plastic bag of garbage bulging out of it. There's a chunky brown stain dripping down the window glass, which looks like someone tried to throw a slice of pizza into the garbage bin, but hit the window instead. Something in this room makes me feel like a failure. I'm not sure I can face my mother's funeral with this as my home base. I unpacked my sweet little funeral dress and hung it in the dowel propped up in one indentation in the room. It's only wrinkled a bit, and there is a mini ironing board and an iron, which is all I hoped for when I planned this. I will adapt. This is how it is happening.
I mean, it creates quite an image. Tell us more about what you were going through at that time when you say this is how it's happening.
Well, actually, in releasing the first album, I was about to start the media campaign, and my mother died that morning. So I never thought, releasing my first album and my mom dying would happen on the same day, but that's how it was happening, and all I could say was yes, okay. I had to keep accepting, and so it was a really powerful experience.
And your new album is entitled Love, Courage, Yes. And you say that kind of underscores everything that you do. Would you talk a little bit about the song Turn and what the lyrics are about there?
Yeah, so Turn is one of those moments that it was written when we face that moment where we go, oh, is this it? Is life going to be over? Maybe we get some news. For me, I went to the doctor and she was like, you've got lumps all over your body. So I was facing like a thyroid nodule and I just started singing and I didn't know if it was all going to be over. And so the lyric is about that, looking at your life and going, well, what has it been and what do I want it to be?
And the clouds might turn and the river might rise and the
One of the things I love to do in my work with an audience, shows, is I make eye contact. My people are people who are comfortable with that. So at one point I got to sing that song to a woman who I knew in the audience was dying, and she died about a few weeks after that. But it was just a pleasure to be able to look her in the eye and give that song to her. So,
where does the courage come from to do that, to engage them by looking them in the eye? And writing and singing sort of, full frontal. Do you have to gin up the courage, or does the courage come from having done it?
Oh my God, I love it. You just called my shows full frontal. That's awesome. I really am hungry for honest interaction. And I guess I get my courage from all the music that came before me. In many ways, the music I make and give now is just a thank you to everybody who, saved my life every day along the way.
Saved your life in what way?
There were times that just felt like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to keep going. I need to wake up and have a really intense purpose.
I did want to ask you, though, since you mentioned your health, you referred to certain issues. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I have lumps still, but they just hang out with me.
But they hang out. That's good. I wonder, just in closing, if you could talk a little bit about the song Love Me Like That.
Yeah, Love Me Like That is a really fun song because, as the song says, I went to this open mic and this poet kind of fell in love with me. And so he dedicated this stunning love poem to me. I'd never heard anything like it. It's this cowboy totally in love with his wife. And I've been single a really long time. So I just thought, well, if somebody would love me like that, yeah, I would try a relationship. Why not? The next day I woke up and it was like the song was knocking on my head. Hey, wake up. Yeah, write this down. Okay. That was the first verse. Then they're like, write this down now. And I said, okay. They're like, that's the third verse. And I said, great. I have the first verse and the third verse. And then I said, what about the second verse? And the song was like, well, you're on your own. So the second verse is the verse where I have to say what I want in a lover. And I had to really sit down with myself and be like, well, what do I want?
Nice to talk to you, Licity Collins, whose new album is out today titled Love, Courage, Yes. Thank you, Licity.
Thank you, Lisa.